Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I thought I'd pop by just on I've got so much stuff on my desk, on a Sunday afternoon and just create a simple project. The problem is I've been working on other projects and as you can see, my non-stick craft sheet is a bit grubby, but there you go. And also I wanted to pop by because I was given some information and I gave the information incorrectly about sharpening pencils. So as you've seen, I often talk about my Prismacolor pencils and you know I'm no professional, I just colour the way that suits me and what gives me good results. Now when you're sharpening your pencil, obviously some of you, if you've got the electric pencil sharpeners, that takes the strain for you. But the idea is the idea is that you don't move the pencil, you actually move the sharpener. So the sharpener takes the strain. I can't remember whether I've been doing that or not, but it's the sharpener that takes the strain. So you need to keep the pencil still. I think I've been doing that. I think I've been keeping the pencil still. But it doesn't matter, whichever hand you hold the pencil in, that has to stay still. So that, so that the sharpener takes the strain with the turn, not the pencil. And actually, using my non-dominant hand to hold the sharpener and turn the sharpener, not the pencil, has really worked. So I just need to make sure, because the lovely lady that left me the information went into great detail. So I just need to make sure that I give the correct information. So whatever hand you hold the pencil in, that hand keeps the pencil still. It's the sharpener that takes the stress, not the pencil turning the pencil that takes the stress. But even when I've been holding the sharpener in my non-dominant hand and turning the sharpener, that works because I've not moved the pencil and it really works. But I just need to make sure that information is correct. So don't move your pencil, move your sharpener, and then your pencil doesn't take the strain, your sharpener does. So I just want to sort of make sure I send out the correct information. So what I'm going to do is create a nice simple card now. Nothing too complicated at all. And I mean very simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some Salty Ocean Distress Oxide ink. So I'm just going to take the Distress Oxide and I'm just going to add a few beads of that ink, and then I'm just going to add that to my card. I love this Salty Ocean colour. It's really lovely. I'm just going to add a few little splatters of water, and then I can let that do its thing just for a few moments before we dry it. Let me just grab my heat tool. And I've got my little fur baby in the craft room with me, if she makes any noises, but she's very quiet at the moment. She's actually got cancer and is having cancer treatment, but I'm trying to celebrate every day with her because she is 15, and for a little pug, that's amazing. So she's in the craft room with me, aren't you, darling? Hey. So she's in the craft room with me. So hopefully she'll be happy there knowing that I'm still around. So I'm going to take a little bit more of this Salty Ocean, and I'm just going to add a few more splatters of that Salty Ocean just to my project. Again, you can have another piece of card if you wish. I'm a great believer in not wasting the ink, because you can create two backgrounds for the price of one. And I always think that's a good idea, because you can come back, you might be doing another project in 3 weeks' time, and you can add it to this background. And you'll be surprised how many beautiful backgrounds you get, especially if, unlike me, you haven't got paint all on your non-stick craft sheet. But by giving the card a little bit of time, you can see that it just lovely reacts with the ink, the water does. But what I don't want to do on this occasion is a lot of the time I might pick it up with the kitchen roll, and what the kitchen roll does is that picks the colour up and you end up with the bleached out areas. You still end up with bleached out areas, but I want to keep the intensity of colour, so I'm just going to dry it a little bit. So let's just dry this. I don't want to move the colour too much because I quite like that little bit of colour there. And sometimes it's lovely just to have a little bit of creative time, especially if, like me, you've had very little sleep and you're trying to take your mind off the fact. So I'm just drying from the reverse as well as on top. And a nice simple background, it's just beautiful. Not too much on there, but it's just beautiful. I love creating backgrounds. I love creating my own backgrounds. I know we all like different things, but I do love creating my own backgrounds. And you can see there's still moisture on there. Just going to bend that a little just so the card remembers. And just take a little bit of kitchen roll. And I've dried the card enough for the purposes I need. So if I just dab that bit of moisture there, that's absolutely fine. So I've got a lovely basic background. Right. And I'm going to take the little Clematis stamp. Like so. So it's this Clematis that I'm taking here that you can see. So it's just this one here, and you can use it coming down into the page like so if you wish, just as it is on its own, whichever way, you know, that really appeals to you. Oh, bless her heart. So I'm just going to take the Clematis now, and I'm just going to stamp this on one of my favourite VersaFines. I do love Morning Mist. Not that you can read this because it's so, mine is so grubby because it's well used. This is the same ink pad I've had it yonks, the VersaFine Claire Morning Mist. So I'm just going to take the Morning Mist with the grey, and you can see I'm just using lots of tapping motions just so that I can add this colour. And then I'm going to add this, where shall we add it? Shall we add it just here? Just there, like so. So we're just going to add this here. And just give this time, because we've got that distress, I can't speak, because we've got that distress oxide down there, I'm just allowing the ink a little bit more time, mainly because you've got that moisture in there. The card is not absorbent any longer in this area. It is here, but not here, because I've got that layer of ink. So I'm just giving that a little bit of time just to make an impression. There we go. So you can see I've just got a beautiful impression on there. So what I'm going to do now is take my wipe, and I'm just going to use my fingers and clean the bottom area, because I just want the florals now. So I'm just cleaning the bottom area, and most of you know I don't tend to clean my stamps apart from if I'm doing techniques or anything like that. So I'm just going to dab my hand on there just to make sure it's got no moisture on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink the little floral. So if I bring this up just so that you can see, I'm tilting the stamp just on its side, still lots of tapping motions. And if I stand up, you can see I'm just going to remove the bit of ink just so that I've got it inked on the floral there. And I'm then going to take this floral up here, like so, and just stamp that. And just allow that a little bit of time just on there. And then I'm going to take another floral and add another floral. Just ink the floral, the top part. Plenty of tapping motions. And then I'm just going to remove a little bit of ink from there. And then I'm going to add another floral just here at the top. So just using your floral a different way just makes it look slightly different, so you get more opportunities from your stamp designs. Just wonderful. So you get lots more opportunities from your stamp designs then. And then if I just bring in a pencil for now, I'm just then going to attach the floral just to the stems, just so that it looks like they are connected. So I'm just adding that with the pencils, and then I'm going to grab my reading glasses. Mainly because we come to the colouring. So I'm going to add a bit of colour to this now. But you can see what I've done is I've elongated the stamp. So the stamp looks completely different. And if you want to, you can add florals coming off, all in different positions, so that you get different colours. She says, you're now going to see my face appearing in the camera, mainly because with my little fur baby in the room, there just isn't the room. Right, so what I'm going to do then, she says, after she did pull it out and sharpen it, there we go. So I'm then going to add, you know where there's a colour on here, I'm just going to add a little bit of my white pencil just to the floral a little bit. So I'm just going over with a little bit of my white pencil, just so that you've got a little bit of that white layer underneath, just to make things pop a little bit more. Now, I don't have to really do it here because I've got the white card, just where I've got that blue ink, just so it just pops a little bit more against the white. And I'm going to go over the grey area a little bit. So let's go over the grey area a little bit. And what we can do, if it doesn't work too well, we can go over with some white paint instead. So what I'm going to do now is just grab my Inktense pencils. This is a case that my lovely friend Lucy got me, but I want to do it in sort of reddy oranges because it's going to pop against that blue. It's going to look really nice. So if I pick this red, you can tell the colours I use a lot of. We want a little bit of a darker colour, and I would like a nice sort of, what about that Spanishy orange? Or no, let's have this one. You can see it's not sharpened very well. And then we can practice what we preach about our pencils. Move the sharpener, not your pencils. So I'm going to move the sharpener, not my pencil. So the sharpener takes the strain, not your pencil. And for me, that's not sharp enough. So I'm keeping the pencil still and moving the sharpener. But I'm actually putting the sharpener on purpose in my non-dominant hand because it stops me in a way. I can keep this pencil rigid. Does help if you turn it in the right sharpening bit. So you've got to keep your pencil still because you don't want your pencil taking the strain. It's the sharpener that needs to take the strain. That's perfect. And I'm hoping that the drone of my voice will send my little fur baby to sleep so that the medication takes effect. Poor little thing. Right. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to use the dark colour, which in my case is terracotta. And I'm going to, you see, I liked when I'm going in with fine detailed stamps like this, I like it really to a point. So I do like it to a point. That's better, especially when I'm going into that fine detail. Can you see I've got a nice point on that pencil now, so that when I go into a little bit of the fine detail, I can really get into that fine detail. Now, as I've reiterated, I am no professional when it comes to pencils. The only thing I can say is I've practiced lots and lots of times just to see what works for me. But I think it's important when you're offering education that you state, you know, what kind of experience you've got or whatever. So as far as stamping goes, I've been a stamper for 30 years. So I've got a lot of sort of knowledge of that. When it comes to pencils, I've been doing them a few years, quite a few years, probably about 10. And I do believe it's one of those mediums that you need to practice with and you do fall in love with. But don't compare yourself to anybody else, because like any art, it's subjective, and you know, and it's what you see. So if you don't like adding layers and layers of the pencil to get that smooth colour, just add a little bit of colour. You don't have to colour the same way as anybody else. So I'm just adding a little bit of that dark colour now. Just a little bit. And just adding this towards the sort of the central area for my dark colour. And you can see I'm going straight over the grey, which is going to make the colours a little bit darker. If I stamp with sand dune, the colours are going to be a little bit lighter because of the base colour that you've added. So you can see I've just got that base colour of terracotta PC944, and I'm then going to add my secondary colour, which obviously I like because look how small it is, crimson red PC924. So I'm going to come in with the crimson red and I'm just going to blend in. And what I'm doing is I'm blending into that darker colour, and I do it every time. There's always one little petal I miss. So we'll just come back in with the crimson red 924 and just blend into the dark colour, and it just softens those edges. Now remember, you don't want to go in too hard. You go in too hard, you break down and fill in the fibres and the white areas of the card too soon, and then you've got nowhere to go. And what I mean by that is you don't want to sort of burnish the card and fill in the white areas too soon, because then you can't, once the card becomes shiny, you then can't add any more pigment. You can't add any more layers to your card. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go to my third colour, which is the orange PC918. And with the orange, I'm going to blend in to the other colours just with the orange. And again, I'm not going to press too firmly with that colour. I'm just going to come in very lightly just with that colour. just with a little bit of the orange, just so that you can just see there. So just lightly blending the colour. And I'm taking that orange into my second colour just to blend the edges. And at the moment there's no smoothness about it because I've only added my first layer. So we're just building those layers up. And I'm concentrating on the flowers at the moment and not any leaf areas, although I've missed this floral here, which we will do afterwards. I don't like to concentrate on too many areas too soon. I like to just take my time. So we're going back now to our dark colour. So we're just coming back to this dark colour now, which is the terracotta. So just add the terracotta. It does say terracotta, doesn't it? Yeah. PC 944. You know when you question yourself when you're saying something. I'm just coming in with that terracotta. And because it's a relatively small floral, I don't have to lay down too much colour before it starts to come to life. It really does come to life just with a small amount of colour. And even when I'm adding the second layer of that colour, I can already see the difference and the depth by just adding that second layer of colour. Then going to come to my second colour, which is the Crimson Red 924, and just blend in to the darker colour. Just blend into that darker colour. And when we add our touches of white, you will see that come to life even more. As you add the touches of white. And just the second layer of colour really does make a difference to the florals. Really does work beautifully. There we go. And let's add the orange, coming in to our mid colour. So going into that to blend the edges of that. Just blend in with the orange, coming in to the previous colour. There we go. So we're just coming in into that previous colour just to blend in the edges. And you can see at no point do I work anything too much. But that sort of orangey colour blends beautifully with the touches of blue. Now I'm going to come in and do these other florals. So we've got the little tiny floral here. Like so. And even though it's a tiny floral, I still want to add some colour to that, even though it's very tiny. I'm going to add a little bit of colour to the buds as well. Then come in with our second colour. And it makes such a difference when you add a touch of colour against this beautiful blue. It works really nicely. The orange just makes that pop a little bit. But when you're working in these fine little florals, sharpen your pencil to that nice point, and that will really help you just to get into the detail. I'm going to come back to the dark colour again, just to add another layer of that colour, because even in this little floral as well, it works really well. Didn't add the thingy colour to that, did I? Let's bring these buds in a little bit darker. I'm just going to bring a bit of that colour just into the stems. Just a little bit. Nothing too dark, just a little bit of that colour into the stems. Just a little bit more of the orange. And my little fur baby's all relaxed. Bless her. Just so that we've got those colours in there. And then I'm going to bring in my Posca pen. I can never remember which one it is. Might be that one. That's it. And the reason I just test the Posca pen is I know that when I've done some colouring previously, I've got wax debris on the end. And I'm trying to remember to say the Posca pens I'm using because I get asked questions. It's PC1MR, PC-1MR, and that relates to the fineness of the nib. So let's just now add touches of white. Don't want to do it on my mount board when I'm doing another project. Don't know whether, is it there? Yeah, it is. So I'm just going around sort of where the centre of the floral is, just as you get those stamens, etc. So I'm just adding that here. Just adding the touches of a little bit of the pollen just to the inside. There we go. And just sort of doming it around, just so it's slightly domed. And each floral doesn't have to look exactly the same. Let's give the buds a little bit of white and a little bit of white onto this one as well. A little bit of white there. And then I'm just going to add some little touches of the white just to the florals, because I think that will just add a little touch to that. There we go. Let's just add a little touch to that now. Just makes everything pop a little bit. Just lets the design pop. So what I'm going to do then is just add, let's move this out of the way a little bit. We'll just add a little touch. We can put these back now, can't we? So we can just add a little touch of green to our foliage. So let's just add, and it's only a little bit of green I want to add. Nothing too much. So let's bring this in. So I just want to add that suggestion of greenish colour just to the leaves, just giving it a little bit of detail. Sorry, it does help to tell you peacock green PC 907 and apple green 912. I'm only going to do 2 colours on the leaves. And just sort of a suggestion of that green. Just giving a little bit of detail to the leaves. Just so that it's got the detail in the leaves a little bit. Going with a little bit of the green around the stems as well. You can always tell when Tracy's enjoying herself because she faffs a little bit more, because she likes doing that. So I've got sort of a bit of a green halo then. And really you want that waxy pencil just to sort of add, to rest a little bit before you add your white highlights. You just want it to rest a little bit, because you can add the white highlights so easy if you give it time just to rest a little bit. So what I'm going to do now, I've got the, if I look at this in camera, I've got the basis of the card, but what I want to do, let's grab our little paintbrush, move the card out of the way, and I'm going to take the Salty Ocean again, and I'm going to add, let's just make sure it doesn't splash everywhere. I'm going to, not upside down either, I'm going to add a little bit more of this colour just around the floral, because the orange really pops against that blue. And you can see I'm just sort of twiddling the oxides just around the project, just giving that sort of a little twiddle. Let's bring this in. And I can instantly see that the orange now really pops against that blue. But what happens is you've got that one layer of colour. So let's give that a little dry. You don't need too much of a dry, but then I can come in a little bit darker, just with that blue, because if I come in a little bit darker, it's going to pop even more by adding layers of that colour. So just come in and add layers of that colour. There we go, just add the layers. And blend your blue out a little bit sort of lower as well. Just blend that out a little bit lower. And we can spritz it again so that we've got those. And you can see the one thing that I do try to do is I do try to keep a little bit of white area. Let's just give that a little bit of a dry. And again, let's grab a little bit more Salty Ocean. And again, I'm going to come in a little bit darker. Just building up the depth and then dragging it out to nothing. So I'm just going to, can you see it still moves a little bit, but I just twiddle it, a little bit of a twiddle, just to blend that out a little bit. That's a professional term, you know, a little bit of a twiddle. It just makes it a little bit darker. And what you can do is you can even come in very lightly with a little bit of pencil work around the edges, should you wish. All right, let's. So you're just going to come in with a little bit of pencil work. There we go. I'll pick you up in a sec. So just add a little bit more darkness just around the area, and it just makes everything pop a little bit more. And sometimes some simple designs are all you need. There we go. So what I'm going to do is, I was going to say we'll mop that up with the other piece of card that we started, because it'll just add another layer of that blue and you're creating another background at the same time. Now, I want to just grab my background stamp, which is TE11. So let's grab that background stamp. But before I do, I just want to sort of, let's take this and let's take my fan brush. The reason I'm using the fan brush is it'll just add some more delicate splatters, nothing too over the top, because with it being a fan brush, it'll just add lighter splatters. Now, I'm not going to dry that moisture. I'm going to leave that moisture on there, and then I'm going to take stamp set TE11 background elements, and I'm going to take the salty ocean, and I'm going to add some background text. Now, what will happen is the background text will touch that moisture in areas, and it sort of makes it bleed, and it's very soft. I will lift it up so that you can see, but there's just something about it when it touches that water. It just really adds to the botanical feel and just gives a beautiful sort of flow to it. It's just wonderful. So just add. I'm going to lift this up just so that you can see what I mean by the little bits of text. Again, one finger. I don't really need to press any harder than that one finger. So again, one finger, and it just adds some text, and the text almost sort of looks embedded in the page, which is what I love. As you can see, my non-stick craft sheet is moving all over the place, and you've just dropped it on there. There we go. That's it. Lovely. Take that again. And where it hits that moisture, it will sort of bleed a little bit. And it just really works with the background. So let's add a little bit of text down here. Just lovely. Again, let's remember to clean our stamp when you've used the oxide, because if you come to it then with the VersaFine Clair, it's not going to work. But just so that you can see, hopefully you can see the little bits of text in there. It just works beautifully. Now, what you can do, if you want to just highlight a little bit more, let me grab my pencils again. And let's grab sort of a really, electric blue, do we think? What colour are you? Light cerulean blue. No, I'm going to go for electric blue, which is PC1040. Now, I've got moisture on that card, so I don't want to work that card with that moisture in there. Because if you work that card with pencil, with that moisture in there, you're just going to end up bringing up the sort of the fibres of the card. And you don't really want to do that. So what I'm going to do then, instead of going around with my Inktense pencil, my grey, I'm coming in with the pencil and I'm just adding a light layer of that pencil just around the florals. Just a light layer. If you just go round in a circular motion and just add a little bit of a light layer in between the floral, just so that you work that a little bit more. If you don't want to do the pencil work, then just go in with another layer of your oxide ink. So just go in with your oxide ink. So I'm just coming in and just adding layers of that colour very lightly. And sometimes I whisper when I say very lightly, because I'm a bit weird like that. So let's just, and for me, it just adds a little bit more of the depth. Now don't press too hard because you don't want it to stick out like a sore thumb. You just want to blend a little bit of that colour around the floral, but just so that it works with the card. So this is PC1040. And just add a little bit more of the colour right into the centre here, into this area here, just where you might have some white areas, and just come in with the pencil. Now if you're worried about pressing too hard, if you hold your fingers higher up on the pencil, it stops you from doing that. I'm just going to come in here. And it just really sort of builds that layer up. Just on the floral. Just to bring the depth around the floral areas. And just around the buds, I'm just going around very lightly, just to add a little bit more of that blue. It's nice just having a play with that and just working again to give a little bit more depth. It really does sort of lift the whole design. It works beautifully. And then what I would do then is I go back in once everything is rested, and I go back in and just add a little bit more of the white again, just because it's like anything, it's just layering the white pen just a little bit more, just so you can see the layers just a little bit more, just to give it a few more highlights. There's something about white pen that really lifts the whole design. You You can add a few more dots if you want, another layer of the dots. It just really works. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take TE36, because I want one of my little cats just to sit and look at the florals. Just take the cats, take the black ink, which I don't seem to have out, bear with me, as I'm going to take the black ink, which is Nocturne, and again I'm inking that cat stamp up. Look how many times I tap that. Even though it's a small stamp, it's a silhouette stamp. Make sure your stamp isn't going to fall off onto your project. And I'm going to add my little cat here, just looking at the florals. So just give that a little bit of time just to absorb onto the surface of the card. There we go. Just so we've got our little cat on there. And then I want him to be grounded a little bit. So let's just move our cats out of the way, just so they're not anywhere in my way. Just place them back. And then I'm going to add a little bit of shading just under the cat. Now obviously we've got that blue ink on there, so we just need to make sure that that is clean. And then I'm going to come in and just blend that out a little bit. Just blend that out. And if you ever add too much, just dab and it will just lighten everything up a little bit if you want to do that. I'm then going to add preferably some clean. Let's just take some clean water. I'm going to add a few more little splatters of the water, like so. Again, let's clean that up. And then we'll take our Posca pen and let's add some white splatters. Now, if your pen isn't working, just press lightly to get the paint flowing. Don't press so hard that you almost break the nib, and just give that a really good shake. And then add some splatters. See, it works so much easier if you add those splatters when you've given it a good shake, etc. It really works well. Ooh. So then it's up to you whether you add a black mat or you add it white on white. Now, I'm going to add the black mat just slightly differently this time after cleaning. I'm going to use my Posca pen. Now, if you're going to do this and you're worried about making mistakes, it's sometimes better to add the Posca pen first, because then if you make a mistake, you're not ruining the whole design. So that might make it a bit easier for you. You don't have to use Posca pen. You can use a biro and do some doodly lines around the outside, or you can use your black ink pads. However, if you're using your VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink, just be aware that that stays wetter longer. And because it stays wetter longer, when you come to pick it up, you could transfer some of that ink. So make sure you give it a little bit of a dry. So now, not very dark there. That's better. And with black ink, I always find, me personally, I get in a right mess with black ink. So I always like to sort of clean up before I do anything else. just so that everything is clean. And then I'm just going to bend that slightly. And with the Posca penny seed, dries quite quickly. So then I'm going to bring in the Clematis stamp. Let me just place that Clematis back, like so. And then I can add the word Clematis, which is obviously inside the packaging, because it's a well-used stamp, and it is inside the packaging. Just grab a small acrylic block. And I'm going to use my black ink for that. So I'm going to use Nocturne ink. And again, before I go to the project, I make sure the stamp isn't going to fall over. And then I'm going to add the word Clematis just here, like so. And again, I don't need to press hard. The only thing I need to do is just have a little patience and allow that ink to absorb onto the top of the card. Obviously, it's not going to absorb into the card because I've already got layers on there. So you can see the L. The reason it's not as visible is I didn't press hard enough just on the L. So what I'm going to do is, let's take this and cut the word out. There's always ways around it. So just stamp the Clematis. L. Oh yeah, Clematis. Do you know, I was thinking, why is the L? I didn't press my stamp as I was pressing the L. Just cut that sentiment out. So it's up to you if you stamp it directly on the card or you cut it out. And I'm cutting it out because I've slightly missed the L. I could just draw that in with my pen quite easily. No problem at all. But let's just add this. Just add the adhesive, just going down here. So now I don't have to worry that the L was slightly missing, because I've just cut that out now. There we go. And then we'll just add our normal shading. Our normal shading with a pencil that I can never find because I just plonk it down. And again, probably wait until that is stuck down properly, because then you're not working with something that keeps trying to move. Then let's just blend that out. There you go. So you don't panic if you make a slight mistake. There's always a way around it. So now I've got the black mat on there, but it's not my black card. It's just a faux mat to give a subtle line of black. I'm then going to add the adhesive just around the card. And I always like to add adhesive to the centre of the card, particularly if, like me, you've added moisture. I find it particularly important when you've added moisture to that card. So let's just press that down, because the card is trying to fight against you and fold back up again. So I like to add some adhesive to the centre, just so that we don't get any bubbles or anything on that card. And before I start tapping and pressing anymore, let's make sure that our hands are all clean. So just press that down. And I think just for a nice simple card, it's just beautiful. And I'm not going to add white highlights to the cat because I want it to be a black cat. And I love that. Nice and simple and effective. And I've had my fix of creative time. So thanks very much for watching. Love to all. A warm welcome to my new followers. We're coming now, Mitts. So thank you from me and Mitzi, and we'll see you all soon. Love to all. Bye for now.